When we are developing schedule, initially we just try to figure it out who can do what kind of work and what kind of a dependencies the work item or activity has on each other. But later we realize that few people are overloaded and few are underloaded, and we need to do something about it. This resource optimization process is bringing some optimization in resource assignment to the activities. It is linked for human resource as well as for materialist resources. Now you may realize that you are planning a party and there are 5 friends who you are planning who will do what, and you may realize that one friend can do multiple things, and in a first level of planning you allocate so many works to him based on what he can do and based on how the activities are related with each other. And then you realize, oh God, he is overloaded now, we need to do something about it. And when you are doing something about it, you are doing resource leveling. Now there are 2 concepts for resource optimization. One is called resource leveling and another is called resource smoothing. So let's talk about how does it make, how we can understand this particular thing well. So let's take an example of a critical path method first and see the context where this may be relevant. So you may have an activity A, activity B, and then you may have something called activity C, and finally the project gets ended. So you have end here. Now all these activity takes 8 hours, assuming. So they are all 8 hours work. So you write 8 hours. And this is how they are dependent on each other. So you allocated one person, say name Raj, to activity A as well as activity B, and you may allocate it say David on activity C. Now you thought this can be started on the day 1 and get finished on day 1, and this will get finished on day 2. The work is over in 2 days. But when you look at an allocation, you realize that Raj is working for 16 hours on day 1 and it can't be done. Even if activity B can start in parallel with activity A, there is no limits, there is no interdependency among them, but since the person is same, this flow will not work. And you may end up changing this activity like more or less like a serial. You may create activity A, then activity B, and then activity C, and this may change your project duration from 2 days to 3 days, and you say okay, 8 hours, 8 hours, 8 hours, and you have a start and you have end. So when you do a resource leveling, your project duration may get impacted because the new interdependencies may get discovered because of resource constraints. Yes, these 2 activities could have been done in parallel, but only Raj can do it, and so we have to do it in serial. And that is what the resource leveling is all about. In most of the tools, when you create your critical path method, when you feed your data, it allows you to view something called resource histograms. So what the resource histogram does it, whatever information you have here from in your activities and people allocation, and it creates an histogram of amount of work or hours the person on a daily basis is allocated, something like this. So this could be, there is a day, so you may have a day 1, day 2, day 3, day 4, day 5, and this one is hours. So this might be, you may say that this is 8 hours and this could be somewhere 16 hours. So you can see that there is a chart which shows that people are allocated at how many hours. Now when you do a resource leveling, you know that nothing can go beyond 8, so you need to remove this and bring it somewhere down. You can't just work with this schedule, and that is why it is called leveling. You have limit that person can only work for 8 hours, so you need to remove these peaks. Now how do you remove these peaks? You remove these peaks by either adjusting the activities or by allocating these work to someone else. So you end up doing this particular leveling. Now assuming that you performed the resource leveling and the new schedule came up is that these activities got added somewhere here, somewhere here, like this, and something like this. So you remove this by changing the project schedule. Now nothing is going beyond 8 hours, and the new thing is something like this. And this increased the project duration from 5, 6, 7, 8 days. Now the work will finish in 8 days, but work is leveled. No, this particular individual is not working more than 8 hours. This is a leveling. Now what is smoothing then? Now smoothing says that okay, we are not increasing the project duration beyond 8 hours. We have leveled it. It can work. But can we give this guy a breathing space? We are consuming all the time 8 hours. But one particular day he's only working for 5 hours. Another particular day he's only working for 4 hours. So can we do something so that somewhere he can be working somewhere at 6, 7 hours consistently all the time? So it is like bringing the desired smoothness in work allocation. But if it impacts the project schedule, we won't do it. So it's like we have done the leveling, and now we are giving a finishing touch so that person has a better breathing space and he can take care of more uncertainties. So we look at the project schedule again and see that can we bring this somewhere up, and can we bring some of the work little bit down, if not all, and something like this can go. So if this can happen, again, we are not violating the 8-hour rule, but in some cases, we are bringing the work allocation below 6 hours or 7 hours, whatever desired hours you have, without impacting the overall schedule's timelines. Overall critical path duration is not getting changed. Now, we may not be able to achieve this smoothing all the time. There are some cases where he's working 8 hours and nothing can be done about it. Because if you try to do something about it, project schedule will get impacted. So you won't do anything. You will leave that. Leveling is like must, because this is it. He can only work for 8 hours. How can you allocate him for 12 hours? You need to remove that 4 hours. Smoothing is, yes, he's intended to work for 8 hours. I wanted to give him a work for 7 hours. In some days I can do it. In few days I can't. That's what is about smoothing. So all these two techniques we put under the umbrella of something called resource optimization. The essence is simple. Once we have a project schedule in our view, now we want to make sure that the people, the material resources are optimized during the project duration. They are used at an optimum level so that we have a less risk on our projects. And this is what we do in resource optimization.